Where were you raised?
I was born and raised in Odessa, former Soviet Union, Ukraine. I came to the United States in 1977 as a refugee.
Because what was it like for people of any faith at that time under communism?
It's basically non-existent because the communists believed the only religion is communism. And there was no religion. And there was few churches open, but if you go there, your pictures are being taken. And basically they existed more of like a relic to look at it, not as a place to worship.
How concerned are you about totalitarianism coming into the United States and the West today?
Absolutely scared of it because I came to this country to be free and live a free life, and what is happening now, I believe it's changing back to what we came from, and it scares me. Yes, because I think we're very close to we're in a precipice of basically falling off the cliff because of the education, because how the children are taught what to think, not how to think, and that's the reason.
How about social pressures on people to go along with the party line?
I believe this is the biggest travesty. My favorite American expression is I agree to disagree, so we can have a very vast discourse and discussion, but then we're all Americans, aren't we? Nowadays, it's you to believe what I believe. I'm going to destroy you because you have to believe what I believe, or there is no conversation whatsoever.
Has that emerged organically, or is there some social engineering, you feel?
I strongly believe there was social engineering, and it's something that I believe Russia, Soviet Union started it by going into education system and start brainwashing the teachers and bringing their ideology that translates now, and this is what they teach the children.
But why would the United States, or the state's offices or the county offices, allow this kind of control over curriculum?
Because people, and I blame myself too, because we were young when we were raising children, and we thought the public schools doing a great job, and we didn't pay attention until it came to fruition. And I think what really opened people's mind is the COVID, because they saw what they were trying to push on the children, and it is biggest travesty there is.
What is this? So, with regard to COVID, some people believe that it was also a product of what they call mass psychosis, where it tried to get obedience and authoritarianism into the people's mentality.
You're 1,000% correct. I used to travel a lot to Asia for business, and I remember the bird flu, the swine flu, and it was a precursor test runs on how to control the population. And when the COVID hit, I believe they finally realized that they can control population by scaring the heck out of us, and people went along. I never thought that the United States, which is land of the free, self-reliance, will give in so easily to this. And I was very not amused, I was appalled that it happened.
The Germans brought in authoritarianism on the idea that they were going to keep the public safe. And the Russians and the Chinese also, these are part of the communist revolutions. Is this something that you see as a risk here in 2024?
Absolutely. This is how they control. They scared the heck out of you. Well, I came to the United States in '77. It was the coldest winter in Cleveland. I lived in Cleveland. So all of a sudden we're going back into the ice age. Then there was climate change. So they always try to find something to scare the populace and to control them, because once people are scared, it's easier to control.
Would a war do that? The idea of domestic terrorism? I mean, legitimate domestic terrorism, not just the allegations of Republicans protesting outside the Capitol?
Of course, it scares people off, and if they repeat lies long enough, it becomes truth, right?
How do you feel about U.S. support, financial support for Ukraine that has not been transparent in terms of the funding?
I believe that there was Ukraine is used to wash out the money and come back to corrupt politicians. I don't think that Ukraine is really were giving anything in the beginning to fight the war, and they were slow walking everything to them, and they prolonging the fight. And explain to me, please, how people of 20 million people can stop to a country that has 150 million people. If Russia wanted to take over entire Ukraine, they would have done it by now if they really wanted it. And us giving the money, and when people say, well, Ukraine can win, I just don't see how. I don't see how.
That Ukraine could win?
Yes, I don't think how Ukraine can win on their own if we just give them the weapons. Mathematically, it just doesn't work. 20 million people, 150 million people country.
Well, where do you think all that money is going? Is it going into mercenary soldiers or where?
The money is going to mercenary soldiers, but there's a lot of corruption. Ukraine is the second most corrupt country in Europe after Russia. So I do not trust, and when we send the money and there is no accountability, show me anybody in the government that said, show me where you spend the money.
And that's a lot of money.
It's a lot of money, and we could have used those money to help our own people in the United States, not in Ukraine.
But isn't there a risk that if we say the U.S. and Ukraine don't push Russia back, then they will expand into Poland and the Baltic states?
I don't think that's going to happen personally, because Russia always said, Soviet Union always said they wanted to have that sphere of deterrence or the belt around them. And when we're pushing all the NATO countries to be right next to them, like Baltic states, like now Finland and Switzerland, and now our Secretary of State said that Ukraine eventually will join NATO. This is not a good sign for Putin, okay? I'm not saying that Putin is a nice guy. He's a terrible dictator. But on the other hand, he's doing what he thinks is right for Russia by creating a buffer zone around Soviet. And Soviet Union and Russia always wanted to have that buffer zone.
Did the Democrats know this when they went against him?
Of course they knew that. But
when they threatened that they were pushing for NATO memberships?
Of course they knew that. Look, when Gorbachev said that we're going to dissolve the Germany and we're going to dissolve Soviet Union, when he was meeting with Reagan and Scholz, and said, well, you got to promise me that the NATO will never expand east. And they said, we promise it will never happen. And in 5 years' time, NATO start expanding into former Eastern European countries that were under Soviet Union influence. So we broke our own promise to Russia, and that was Gorbachev then. And now we're pushing more. Look, remember when Georgia decided we were trying to push them to join the NATO, and then Russian tanks rolled up. There was a 3-day war, and all of a sudden Georgia. Oh, we gotta go. We gotta go. We're meeting friends. Sorry.
Finally, what are your concerns now, here in 2024, that a crisis like a war might not be manufactured to help establish certain conditions surrounding the 2024 election in November?
It's a real threat, and it can be used to subvert swinging the election one way or in the other. And what's happening right now in Israel, in Gaza, in Iran, this might be used as a precursor to basically to push the public opinion one way or the other.
Are you concerned as a Zionistic American?
Yes, I am. I am very concerned. I believe Zionism is a good thing, not a bad thing, and everybody should have a place to live. And, you know, as they call Palestinians, how come there is no other Arab countries that want to take them and give them a plan to live? They have to live in Israel. And by the way, Israel offered 2 or 3 times to have a 2-state solution. Who rejected it? PLO did.
Exactly.